Present. Present.
Ms. Crystal Banush.
Here.
Ms. Meg Baumke.
Here.
For attendance, thank you. Mr. Thomas Cohen. For Spotsylvania County, First Vice Chair Tim McLaughlin.
I'm here.
For Chris Jakubowski. Oh, thank you. I've got it. Ms.
I'm here too.
Jakubowski. Thank you. Ms. Deborah Frazier. Mr. David Ross.
This is Kevin Marsh. I'm stepping in for Deborah tonight.
Thank you. For the City of Fredericksburg, Second Vice Chair Matthew Kelly.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Jason Graham.
Here.
Mr. Tim Baruti.
Here.
Mr. Mark Whitley. Mr. Doug Fawcett. Representative from the Secretary of Transportation, Ms. Marcy Parker.
Here.
Ms. Michelle Shropshire.
Here.
Potomac and Rappahannock Transportation Commission, Mr. Charles Steigerwald.
Here.
Ms. Betsy Massey. Ms. Cynthia Porter Johnson. Non-voting members, Caroline County, Ms. Nancy Long. Mr. Jeffrey Black. King George, Ms. Ann Kupka. Here. Thank you. Ms. Kathy Binder.
Here.
Federal Highway Administration, Mr. Ivan Rucker. Federal Transit Administration, Ms. Tanya Holland. Virginia Department of Transportation, Ms. Susan Gardner.
Susan's here. She's just having a problem with her computer.
Thank you. Mr. Stephen Haynes.
Here.
Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, Mr. Todd Horsley.
Here.
Ms. Jennifer DeBrule. Commonwealth Transportation Board Fredericksburg District Representative, Mr. Cedric Rucker. Fredericksburg Regional Transit, Ms. Jamie Jackson.
Here.
Mr. Craig Reed. Citizens Transportation Advisory Committee, CTAC Chair David McLaughlin. CTAC Vice Chair Al Durante. That is all for roll call, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a slight change. My apologies, because I skipped over the statement that I needed to read about the virtual only format. So with some grace, I'd like to read it now. Due to the nature of the declaration of the state of emergency due to novel coronavirus COVID-19 pursuant to Code 2.23708.2, this public meeting is to be held by electronic communication via a web platform GoToMeeting, period. The catastrophic nature of this declared emergency makes it practical and unsafe to assemble a quorum in a single location, and the purpose of this meeting is to discuss or transact the business statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of the public body. A recording of this virtual meeting will be posted to the FAMPO Policy Committee webpage. Thank you guys for your grace. I'd like to move over to item number 4. Before we do that, does anybody have a problem with making a slight change to that agenda? And I'd like to, the George Washington, the Transportation Opportunities for Economic Growth that we just heard from GWRC, which is item, I'm sorry, which number? 7C. If we moved item 7C and 7D forward above our other items, Does anybody, can I make that motion?
No.
Okay,
I'll
would you
move-
make it? Okay,
I'll
thank
move
you.
for agenda modification.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Would you go for, I'm sorry, we'll be doing a roll call vote because there's so many people and we are virtual. So, Ms. Vigil, would you please do a roll call vote on the agenda with the amendment to move forward items C and D above item 7A?
Yes, ma'am, I can do that. Stephanie, Chair Shelton, please.
Aye.
Mr. Dudenheffer,
Aye.
Ms. Vanush,
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall, City of Fredericksburg, Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Graham,
Aye.
Mr. Baroudi,
Aye.
Ms. Parker,
Aye.
Mr. Steigerwald,
Aye.
and then I will try again for Mr. Marshall, Spotsylvania County. All have voted in favor except for Mr. Marshall. I didn't get a vote for him.
Thank you, ma'am. That, item 4, which is the approval of the
I'm sorry,
agenda.
can you hear me now?
Who is that? Oh, it's Kevin Marshall. Is that Mr. Marshall? Mr. Marshall, we'll
Yeah,
count your vote.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We'll
Thank you.
count your vote as approval for the agenda item as an aye. All right, the next item on the agenda is item number 5, public involvement. Ms. Vigil, do we have any emails or information from the public that we need to bring forward at this time?
No one has sent in any email or anything to be read, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to item number 6, the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for the approval of July 20th, 2020 Policy Committee minutes?
So moved. Crystal, Stafford.
Second.
All those say aye by roll call
Aye.
vote. By roll call vote. Guess you actually don't say aye. Ms. Vigil,
Okay.
would you do a roll call vote?
Okay, yes. Stafford County Chair Cindy Shelton,
Aye.
I'm gonna hit you.
Abstain?
Ms. Vanush,
Aye.
Spotsylvania County First Vice Chair Mr. McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
thank you. City of Fredericksburg, Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Graham,
Aye.
Mr. Baroudi,
Aye.
Ms. Parker,
Aye.
Mr. Steigerwald.
Aye.
All in favor, 1 abstention.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Moving on to item 7C, which is the resolution 2110. Ms. Morgan, I believe you're going to do a presentation to us.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present to you the GW Region Transportations and Opportunity for Economic Growth Report. As stated, my name is Jennifer Morgan. I'm the Economic Development Coordinator for GWRC, and this report was put together by myself and the FRA for the Economic Development section, along with VAMPO, led by Ms. Jordan Chandler and Adam Hager for the Transportation section. The first section of this report is to show you the intersection of transportation and economic development within our region and our growth within the region. Our region is an attractive area to live and work elsewhere, but the priorities of our locality are also to have them live and work here. Therefore, our transportation needs to center around both of those efforts. At a high level, our location and access give us our region a competitive advantage. That, coupled with the fact that we are very pro-business climate and have strong workforce development, ensure a sustainable growth of the regional economy moving forward. Each locality has identified business expansion as a key component of their economic development growth, and along with mobility around the region and the surrounding area are key to those things happening. Overall, the understanding of the coordination in transportation and economic development with our region to grow it is key and something that in this report is considered. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Chandler to explain the overall purpose in the transportation section.
So the transportation section is the second half of the document, and this document will be used to support smart scale projects as an attached document in the support document section of the application. And as Jen mentioned, the economic development initiatives in the region also coincide with transportation projects. So the second half of this document highlights transportation projects and how they align with regional goals listed in the first half of the document. And then later in the document, the project assessment matrix, we asked the TAC to go through that matrix and ask for their feedback. And then in the upcoming events section, the SYIP will be voted on federally in October. We're working on Smart Scale Round 4 currently. We just started the new fiscal year, so we're doing the FY21 UPWP, and as well we are working on the 2050 LRTP. And then the Appendix A, we worked with all 5 jurisdictions and agencies in the region to update the projects that are currently reflected at this time. And I can take any questions.
Not hearing any questions. I did want to make a comment from what I heard on GWRC. This is Supervisor Shelton. There was a comment made by Mr. Kelly that I thought was apropos, and it was really talking about that we have to find additional ways to, frankly, spend our collective money to improve our regional transit operations without building more roads and widening more roads. And so I think, Mr. Kelly, and you can correct me if I misunderstood, but I think you were really talking about looking for other ways like Fred Transit and some of the commitments that were made to that to add more buses. And frankly, I think it's looking for any opportunity to find an alternative to keep people off of the road. Is that correct, Mr. Kelly?
Yes, Chairman Shelton, I think we need to be looking at obviously these roads do need to be improved, but we are in a congested situation already. We all want more growth in our area from an economic development standpoint, and we've got to start looking at alternatives. And the alternative, even VDOT has come to this conclusion, is we need to be doing more with transit, and I think that needs to be part of our ongoing discussion. Thank you for bringing that up.
It's very well said, especially at FAMPO. Without any additional questions, would
Madam Chair?
someone like to make a motion? Oh, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. This is Jason Graham from Fredericksburg. Yes, to reiterate some of my points from before, apologies for those who sat through it during GWRC, but I would like to ask that we reconsider the assessment of some of these projects, particularly the accelerate and enhance access and amenities. You know, many of these road widening projects scored a high on this assessment, when we all have said that this is not the way to improve traffic in our region. This will, in fact, just put us right back where we started, just poorer, having spent taxpayer dollars to achieve essentially nothing. And so what I would like to ask is if there can be a rescoring of of this, with the understanding that, road widening, and to take a look at the road widening projects of the past and what they have and haven't done for localities across not just the Commonwealth, but across America, and take a look to see if we can maybe get some of those rescored and take a harder look at some of these road widening projects. Thank you.
Any comments?
Was that a motion? Or is
No, that wasn't a motion, that was a discussion.
So he wants to rescore all the projects with the deadline due any day now, right? So on the smart scale, is that the proposal for discussion?
I'd like to understand
Sorry, if I could, Madam Chair.
what the implication of the rescoring would be. Thank you.
Sorry, if I could, Madam Chair, this is Adam Hager. Just to chime into Mr. Graham's comment, I believe what he is referring to as far as rescoring is on the regionally significant project assessment table, not necessarily the smart scale projects themselves. So we are in a process of making what I would call an administrative modification to this document, basically update it from 2018 to 2020 so that it's reflective of the current universe of smart scale projects. So I don't believe Mr. Graham is suggesting that we reevaluate projects for smart scale, just that this table would be updated. And I would be happy as a staff to commit to the next time this document is updated, take a closer look at the weights and the scoring that are in this table, if that's acceptable to the board.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Thank you, Mr. Hager.
I'd like to remind Pamphlet members, I believe that we are going through reconsideration of our scoring methodology for all of our projects, and your interest in ensuring that we have specific weighted values that would take those in consideration makes perfect sense at this time. Without further ado, I'd like to see if there's a motion for Resolution 2110.
So moved.
Second.
The motion moved and seconded. Because of this item, I'd like to just go ahead and ask for a voice vote for aye, and any opposed say nay. All who are in agreement with going forward with Resolution 2110 to endorse the George Washington Regional Transportation Opportunities for Economic Growth Report, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay, just for consistency with GWRC.
Thank you, sir. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item D, Resolution 21-1 on the legislation initiative. I'm sorry, I can't even talk. Legislative initiative about the state recordation tax revenues. Mr. Towery, would you like to brief the group?
Sure. Absolutely, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Just briefly, this item was brought before you at the last meeting, and the GWRC board, or commission rather, heard it as well. The long story short is that towards the end of the last General Assembly, approximately $20 million was moved from where it had previously been distributed to various localities around the state, the recordation fees and taxes, and was essentially dedicated directly towards the Hampton Roads Transit District, Transportation District rather. The Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania, and Stafford jurisdictions collectively lost just a little over $1.7 million. And so Stafford has been working with VACO as well as a number of other localities to work to bring this back during the special session to have these funds immediately reinstated in fiscal year 21, as well as reinstated long-term in fiscal year 22 moving forward. And staff is requesting consideration that the committee go ahead and support this with the resolution of support that would be again brought before our legislative members. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Towery, is this any different than the resolution for GWRC, or is it the same wording?
It's the same.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Would anyone like to make a motion to approve resolution?
Move to approve
Mark Dudenheffer.
Thank you, Mr. Dudenheffer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Again, like the previous resolution, I'd like to do a call for all the individuals that support Resolution 21-11. Please say aye.
Aye.
All,
Yeah.
thank you. All opposed, say no. Nay. Resolution passes. Thank you very much, everyone. Moving back to our original agenda item, which was agenda item number 7B, Smart Scale Round 4 project. Oh, I've done this one? Oh, I'm so sorry, Ms. Millsap. My apologies. Ms. Millsap, would you like to give us an update on the Pamphlet administrator hiring?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. And if I might augment what's said there, I'd like to update you, give you a report, make a recommendation in terms of activity, and get direction from you all specifically about next steps so we can move this forward. So you might recall at your last meeting, you all asked that I look into what all the jurisdictions have used in the past for professional search firms. And so I got responses from 4 of the 5 jurisdictions. Caroline was the only one I did not hear from. But all the rest of them, being Stafford, Spotsylvania, the city, and King George, all indicated that Springstead is who has been used most recently. They have a new name now, and they've been subsumed by another organization. But they all also report that those have not been used in a while. Several said 6-7 years, others didn't really know. But nonetheless, I have reached out to them and have not heard back, but we'll continue to move that direction to try to get us a quote. Because I did not get a good quote from them, I did, to give us some context, reach out to the Berkeley group, who is on call with GWRC and could easily be taken under contract if that's the reason, if that's the direction you wanted to do for this kind of search. I did not ask them for a formal RFP because, until I got direction from, or excuse me, a formal proposal, but they indicated it would probably be 3 to 4 months and $20,000 to $25,000. I reported that to your CAOs that were present at our CAOs meeting on Friday, and they all thought that was probably about their experience, the right time frame, and amount of money if you wanted to go forward that direction. So that is the report. What my recommendation would be is for this group to go ahead and give us permission to repost on everything we can come up with that makes any sense at all, what we posted last time. And if you want to do that, we can do that tomorrow. And then if you all want to move forward with the search, that would be great. That's totally up to you. But at least we would still have it posted until someone is hired. That's your move. And then finally, I would ask that you all give some consideration to having more of a discussion amongst yourselves. And I'm happy to be a part, and Adam be a part of exactly what you're looking for in that role. And I've talked to Ms. Shelton about this a little bit and had some ideas around that. But in particular, I am asking for you all for permission to go ahead and repost, and then whatever else you'd like to do, we'll be happy to move that forward. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr.
So
McClellan.
I would ask Linda, could you give provide to the board, all the members, what has occurred since we started this process? A detailed, what did we post? Who did we ask? Where did we advertise? Just give me the detailed summary of all the things that we've done. If you could provide that for us so we can review that before next week's meeting, well, the GWRC meeting, but if you could provide that before we make a decision so we can find out, are we being effective or not being effective, and where we're advertising, how we're advertising, and how we're pursuing this.
Ms. Millsap, or Dr. Millsap, if you have that information available today, would like you to present it, if you don't mind, just to save us some time so we can move forward with getting our administrator. Do you have that information available?
Yes, ma'am, I do, at certainly a high level, and then we can give more detail if Mr. McLaughlin would like more detail as we go forward. So as you know, Mr. Agnello departed and moved to Stafford, Spotsylvania County in early December. And so the executive committee met and we posted an initial posting before the Christmas, New Year's holiday, and with the closing date of that in, I believe, mid-January. And again, I can get you the specific details. We had you all had a FAMPO Policy Committee meeting the first week of February. You might recall that was the one that was at VDOT. And at that time, Mr. Kelly reported on where we were on the search, and the thought at that time and the direction at that time was we did not have enough, and really and Mr. Kelly, I don't want to speak for you, but we did not have enough and not entirely the type of candidates that we were hoping to have in the pool. And I also reported that some of the folks that I had approached about possibly applying indicated to me that they thought that post meant if you were without MPO experience, you would not be considered. So the group asked that I rewrite the posting, which we did, to change the focus a little bit to make that important but not required, and made some related changes. That was reposted the first week of February, soon after that meeting, and you all received a copy of that post. And in both those cases, it was posted to Indeed, and we posted it on the National APA website. It was also forwarded to VAPDC and VAMPO. And in that case, both times, at least once, but I think both times, we also sent it to a particular group that focuses on trying to find minority candidates. Out of that second search is where we actually ended up with the two folks that we ultimately brought in for an electronic series of interviews. Those interviews were conducted. I did some initial screening, and then you all, the executive committee, talked to those folks in late May. And May 26th or 27th, right in there, we made an offer to one of those candidates based on the requirements and the range that you all provided. Ultimately, that candidate declined, and you chose to not go forward with the second candidate you interviewed. And so that's essentially where we are. And then, of course, we've had some other things go on in the organization, as you know. But so that's why I was asking specifically for you all to give us direction to go ahead and repost. And then again, whatever else you would like to do, I am open. As I told Ms. Sheldon earlier today, I can assure you there are no two people on this earth that would rather have a new FAMPO administrator than myself and Adam Hager. So I'm happy to do whatever will effectuate that and whatever you would like us to do. Madam Chair, I think that answers the questions, at least at a high level.
Thank you, Dr. Mills.
So, Madam Chair, I would ask Linda if you could put that out to the board members so we understand the timeline and the details and where we posted it, so we understand that, because it's been going on for 8 months now. We couldn't hire an administrator, the deputy hired and left, and we've had almost probably 100% turnover of the FAMPO staff. So I'd like to understand why is that, and so we can move this forward. Maybe we need to have one of the jurisdictions make the hire. So I think this is a discussion. I need the information put out to all the board members, and a discussion later, and maybe we look about maybe one of the, the larger counties or even the city looks at taking over the hiring process to put this person in place, because we're not having any success, and we have to move forward on this.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Any other comments, questions? I would like to make a comment. I'm sorry, someone speaking? It's background noise. Okay, I would like to make a comment. While Dr. Millsaps is doing that, I still think it's prudent for us to go ahead and put it out on Indeed and get this application out there so we can start gathering candidates. I think that now that COVID is kind of moving along, people are looking for jobs, and I'm sorry that we lost a month and a half, of hiring. I'm really sorry. I wish I didn't realize that last time. I would have said something about it, but I think it's important that we move forward and see what candidates we get. And yes, we've had it out there before, and we did not receive the sufficient candidates. Dr. Millsaps, I believe you briefed us before that a comparison of the salary for this is correct. We thought maybe that was it, but we've got to find a solution. And I think at least having it out there for people to respond to makes me happy. How do you guys feel? I know you care.
Madam Chair, I would just say, let's go ahead and I agree, let's just go ahead and repost and see what we get. But in the meantime, by our next meeting, hopefully we'll have some direction or choices on whether or not we go with a headhunter.
Sounds good. Any
Chairman Shelton?
Yes, Ms. Bonke.
Yes, I would just like to say that I don't feel that one of the comments that was made regarding the fact that this has been going on for 8 months, we've also been in the middle of COVID for 4 or 5 months. So I don't really feel that's a fair accusation. There were a lot of things that were not happening during COVID. And in past interviews for this position, it's not like we've had 35 or 50 candidates. So I would just like to state that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bonke. Any other additional comments? Then we will make the decision to post this position back out on Indeed and have a formal written update from Dr. Millsatz in our next meeting agenda packet. All right, moving on to our favorite subject, 7B. Finally there, Smart Scale Round 4 projects. Mr. Hager, do we want?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'll wait and then I'll move on to the individual resolutions. Thank you, Adam.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So we are at that point now where we do need the board to take action on going from 5 projects from the pre-application period down to 4, as well as endorsing the 3 projects within Stafford County that are on the GWRC list as of about 30 minutes ago. So this is the list of candidate projects and the pre-applications. So I would be happy to run through any project sketches or descriptions or feedback that we received from VDOT after the pre-application period, but would like to hand this back over to the committee members to have discussion about which project might be best suited to come off this list.
This is Mark Dudenheffer. I move for Resolution 2106, authorizing support for the George Washington Regional Commission and the Fredericksburg Area Metropolitan Planning Organization Smart Scale Project as listed. 1, Route 208 operational and multimodal improvement. 2, Exit 126 Star VRE feeder bus, Route 208, PNR lot to Fredericksburg VRE. 3, Garrisonville Road widening. 4, Lafayette Boulevard study multimodal improvement with transit and bike paths.
Second.
Resolution 2106 has been motioned and seconded. I'd like to have a roll call vote for this. Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. Is there any discussion?
So just to be clear, we're going to remove the project from exit 130 to 126 in Spotsylvania. Is that the?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any additional comments or discussion? Thank you. I'd like to move to a roll call vote. Ms. Vigil, will you run that vote?
I'd be glad to, Madam Chair. Stafford County Chair Shelton,
Aye.
Mr. Dudenheffer,
Aye.
Ms. Banush,
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall, Mr. Marshall, Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Graham,
Aye.
Mr. Baroudi,
Aye.
Ms. Parker,
Aye.
Mr. Steigerwald.
Aye.
All in favor? No vote from Mr. Marshall.
No vote?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Resolution 2106 is approved. Moving on to Resolution 2107. Do you have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry, was that a second?
Yeah, second, Matt Kelly.
Hearing no discussion, motion 2107 is approved.
We have a
Our
vote.
resolution, you know what, I didn't even take a vote, really? I'm so excited. And so, my apologies, I was actually looking for the list of those projects. I thought it might be valuable to read them. If someone has that list of projects, would you mind reading them before we make a vote for it? You've done it
Sure, I
on
can
the-
do that, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Adam.
So the first project in Spotsylvania County is Route 2/17 widening from the city line to Shannon Airport area. The second project is Harrison Road VCR Trail. The third project is Route 1/208 area multimodal improvements. Fourth project is Route 1/208 area multimodal and revitalization improvements.
Thank you very much, Adam. Now, without further ado, I'd like to do a roll call vote for Resolution 2107.
Chair Cindy. I started with Chair Cindy Shelton.
Thank you, ma'am. There was a lot of noise. Aye.
Yes. Mr. Dudenheffer.
Aye.
Ms. Vanush. Aye. Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Baroudi.
Aye.
Ms. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Steigerwald.
Aye.
All in favor? I think Mr. Marshall might have some audio difficulties. Votes have been recorded.
Aye.
Thank you.
It looks like the folks in Stafford might be having some audio difficulties that Mr. Towery is working on there.
Aye.
Yes, that is correct. I'm in a different location, Meg Bomke, and I just got a text that they're having some issues.
Kevin Marshall also texted me saying he's had difficulty as well. So Dave Ross may be able to chime in.
Do it 20. Thank you. Stafford County is now joining the call. I'm sorry that we were disconnected. Could you guys catch us up to where we were?
All voted in favor of
Oh, that's
Resolution
great.
21.
Okay, well, thank you. Resolution 21-07 passes. The next item on the agenda is item 3, Resolution 2108, Stafford County Smart Scale Project.
Move to approve. This is Crystal from Stafford.
Second, Matt Kelly.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? No discussion. Adam, would you read off the list of those projects that is on the back side of Resolution 2108 for the record?
Yes, ma'am. I would be happy to. The first project is Shelton Shop Road improvements. The second project is Mountain View Road improvements, and this is from Chop Tank Road to Stefaniger Road. Third project is also Mountain View Road improvements. This is from Stefaniger Road to Kellogg Mill Road. Fourth project is Morton Road improvements or US 1 and Lay Hill Road improvements.
Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to do a roll call vote. All those who are in favor, please respond to the roll call vote. Ms. Bishop.
Ms. Shelton,
Okay.
I have a question. This is Meg Bonte. On all of these submissions with the road projects, are they all separate from the actual resolution as an attachment or an addendum?
It is on the back side. If you notice that there is a reference to it, as shown in, it says now therefore be it resolved. And it says as shown in the attachment to this resolution. If you look at on that resolution, there's an attachment that has a list of those projects.
Okay, thank you.
The last paragraph of the resolution.
Thank you, got it.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Madam Chair, did you want the roll call vote taken?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm first, I say aye. You call my names yet?
Chair Shelton.
Aye.
Mr. Dudenheffer?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. McLaughlin?
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Baroudi?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Steigerwald?
Aye.
All in favor of Resolution 2108.
Thank you. That motion passes. By the way, Stafford County is now off their cell phone and they're back to a regular phone. Excuse our telephony challenges that we've had here. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, Resolution 2109.
So moved.
I'd like to make a substitute.
Ms. Fanucci?
I'd like to make a substitute that we motion to support minus the Gateway Boulevard project.
Madam Chair, it's very unusual for this board to step in and make a determination on projects being submitted by a locality. So I would hope nobody would second that motion because it's going to set a real bad precedent.
Second.
I have a question.
Please.
I'd like to understand Mrs. Vanucci's reasoning for jumping in on the Gateway Boulevard extension for the City of Fredericksburg.
Get away from that.
Yeah, so there's actually a couple of reasons. I think the first one is that I believe that you guys have mentioned multiple times that this project is fully funded. And so it's taking up a smart scale spot when it already has funding from other areas. Another reason is that the time frame for the project is fiscal year 26-27, and that doesn't necessarily align within the completion of the VA process for completion within the next 3 years. Another issue with it is that the project cost is about $15 million, and it kind of seems a little bit high. Rather, the funding be spent on some of the other projects that are of less cost. And then I guess the last one would be that the project will create an even worse traffic bottleneck for 95 at the exit of 130 and Route 3. Ongoing 95 improvements for the 130 area didn't make the Gateway Boulevard project into account.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, sir.
One, we've never said it's fully funded. Two, so we now want to have jurisdictions to comment on the validity, cost, and use of funding of every, in other words, I want to go back and start talking about Stafford's projects and whether I should have them pulled or not. All this is letter of endorsement for the localities to put the projects forward they want to put forward. If we go down this road, then we are going to start questioning everybody's project list moving forward. And
Madam
that,
Chair.
again, is a real bad situation.
Madam Chair.
If you don't want to do it at the regional level, that's fine. All this is FAMPO, as we've always done, endorsing the local jurisdictions' projects to move them forward.
Madam Chair, but I'll answer that, Matt, because we are a regional body that is supposed to look at all of, there's a limited pot of money that's got to be spread across all of these different projects. And if one is not a viable project, why should we support it to move forward, which will take, potentially take money away from a more viable project within the region? I mean, I think that's our job here as the regional board, to make decisions like that.
Well, Tim, I wouldn't have a problem necessarily doing that if we had done that well before now, instead of throwing it into the meeting at the very end, right before vote's taken.
Well, we haven't had full, unfortunately, we haven't had full sessions.
Well, the motion's been made and it's been seconded. So first let's vote on the substitute motion and we'll go from there.
What was the substitute motion?
To drop the Gateway Boulevard out of our endorsement of our projects, which frankly doesn't change anything. The project still goes in. It just doesn't go in with a FAMPO endorsement. It's not stopping anything from moving forward. You're not yanking the project out. All you're doing is saying FAMPO is not endorsing that particular project. Fredericksburg will still move it forward.
Sure, but Madam Chair, could you clarify? I thought the motion was to move forward without this project, and that was second. I didn't see the secretary. I didn't see a alternate motion.
Well, no, we're voting on this motion first. Yeah, it's a substitute motion.
Thank you. The question has been called that Resolution 2109 on the supporting the City of Fredericksburg Regional Transmit Smart Scale Project was a motion, substitute motion minus the Gateway Boulevard project as proposed by Ms. Fanucci. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that was seconded by whom?
McLaughlin.
Mr. McLaughlin. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. Without further discussion, I'd like to get a roll call vote.
Okay. Substitute motion. Cindy Shelton.
Aye.
Mr. Dudenheffer.
Aye.
Ms. Vanush.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
No.
No.
Mr. Graham.
No.
Mr. Baruti.
No.
Ms. Parker.
No.
Mr. Steigerwald.
No.
It's 6-5.
That's 6-5.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I just added that up. Thank you very much. The motion, second substitute motion carries. Mr. Kelly had a very good point that it still goes forward. It just goes without FAMPO's endorsement of that project. The next item on the agenda is a transit funding discussion. Mr. Kelly, I believe you asked for this to be added to our agenda tonight.
No, ma'am. I was figuring, other than we need to do more with transit, beyond that, the only other question was that was brought up at the last meeting is people wanted to go ahead and start shifting transit funding around. And I'm assuming we were going to have that conversation at our next meeting, not on a short meeting like this. This was supposed to be for the smart scale projects only.
That is correct. And thank you, Mr. Kelly, for understanding that. I thought maybe it wasn't very clear in our meeting that that is a a very detailed discussion that we need to have in depth. And that presentation, it would be a bulk probably of our next meeting agenda. So thank you very much, sir. Because we need to, I was going to ask you, if you don't mind reminding me, what is the other additional block grant money involved besides 5307 and 5301? There was one new addition funding stream. Dr. Millsaps, I'd just like to write that down for my record.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, madam. This is Linda. And the addition is 5339. And that is actually related, 5339, and that is related to the 5307 discussion and the money generated through the van pools. And it gets much more complicated, but that's the other number.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. It'll give me an opportunity to do some research. The next item under the agenda is any correspondence. Do we have any correspondence that we need to discuss, Dr. Millsap?
We do have some correspondence, Madam Chair, if I might.
Please, Adam.
We do have 3 items here for the policy committee to review. There is first a notice to proceed and a task order with Cambridge Systematics, one of our on-call consultants, to assist with our 2050 LRTP effort that is going to be getting started here within the next few weeks. We have a kickoff call with their project team late next week. So feel free to read through that, and we're happy to answer any questions. We also do have in here our FY20 Q4 report. So this details all of our activities and expenditures over the Q4 of FY20. So again, that too, feel free to send any questions our way that you might have. And then lastly, we did have a letter. The writer asked us to include this in our correspondence. This was back from June 20th related to our 2045 LRTP amendments. And this is a letter to the FLS encouraging use of electric vehicles in that plan. So we wanted to share that with the committee.
So, Madam Chair, just a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. McLaughlin.
So, Adam, based on you putting this out there and what Mr. Graham said earlier about looking at transit and various things like that, and some of the comments I made about telework and various things like that, are you incorporating that in this study?
In which study, Mr. McLaughlin?
Well, aren't you doing a long-range transportation plan?
We are in the process of updating for the 2050 version of this document. Yes, sir.
Right. So in that update, are we going to look at things like that were discussed today?
Yeah, that's certainly the intention.
Well, exactly. Can you make specific knowledge to what Mr. Graham had said and some of the things about telework and how transit may change in the future?
Well, that's a good question, and I was actually going to share with the committee. We didn't have time to get this in the correspondence tonight, but there was actually an article in the Washington Post today that starts to answer some of these questions about some of the long-term impacts of living in this post-pandemic reality.
Yeah, that's
where
good. But are you going to put that in the contract? You're asking these people to do this analysis. Are you going to ask them specifically those questions?
We don't have in the task order with Cambridge, within the scope of work we have with them, for them to perform an analysis. That's something that we would do internally as a staff.
So what do they do?
Cambridge is providing specific support with 4 items for the 2050 LRTP. So happy to run through those briefly, Ms. McLaughlin, to address your question. The first is they're doing all of the traffic demand modeling that's required. So this is one of the federal requirements of an LRTP. That is beyond the expertise that we have in-house. It's a pretty technical work task. So that's the bulk. They're also helping out with ensuring that we meet all of the federal and state requirements and processes with the document, which is again a major work activity. They're going to provide support to our committees and then manage the project as well. So those are the 4 sort of buckets.
So I guess the problem I get is, is this planning committee over time, or when do we incorporate things that are looking at, I don't necessarily agree 100% with Mr. Graham, but how are you looking at his questions, and how are you looking at, long-term telework? How are we looking at the alternatives to this thing? Because a lot of what this is boilerplate, they change it, maybe move 10 years, 5 years, and, send us a $100,000 bill and move on.
Sure. I think that there's a number of best practices that we're going to see coming out of a number of different metropolitan areas that we're going to look to incorporate into recommendations that we're going to provide to localities, as well as how this board invests money in this region. So that is one of the major elements of the LRTP. We have basically a needs assessment that we perform. And so the way that we do that now, as opposed to 5 years ago, is going to be through a different lens. So as we start to develop some of the narrative content for the LRTP, we're going to start asking different questions like the ones that Mr. Graham and yourself have posed in our meetings tonight.
All right.
Thank you very much, Adam. Is there any more correspondence or discussion about that correspondence? Well done. Item number 9 is staff and agency reports. Do we have any staff or agencies that wish to report?
We do have a few staff reports, Madam Chair. I'm happy to report that we did hire Jordan Chandler, who reported just a few minutes ago on the economic growth report. We hired her full-time starting today. She's been an intern and then a part-time transportation planner with our team over the last year, and she graduated from Mary Washington this past month with her master's degree, so we're very excited to have her on board full-time. We did, however, lose Stacy Feint, our public involvement coordinator. She accepted a new position in Richmond, and her last day was August 4th last week, so we are advertising for that position now. We also do have an active posting for a FAMPO intern and have started receiving some applications for that position. And then, of course, as you heard from Dr. Millsaps earlier, we are in the process of continuing to look for a FAMPO administrator. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, and welcome, Ms. Chandler. Next item on the agenda are any board member and chair comments. Would you please go by roll call vote for any comments? And put me last, please.
Let's start with Senior County then. County? Mr. McLaughlin?
No comment.
Mr. Yakubowski?
No comment.
Mr. Marshall?
No comment.
Mr. Kelly? Mr. Graham?
No comment.
Mr. Baroudi?
No comment.
Ms. Parker?
No comment.
Mr. Steigerwald?
Just a quick note, this is my last FAMPO meeting after 20 years at PRTC. I've reached the end of my useful life. Attending the meeting tonight is Mr. Joe Stainsby, who will be succeeding me as a member of the FAMPO Policy Committee, but also in my role as Chief Development Officer. So I hope you all make Joe feel welcome in the coming months.
I will endeavor to do my best.
Then for Stafford County, Mr. Dudenhofer?
No comment, please.
Ms. Vanush?
No comment.
And then back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. You'll notice that I moved the chair comments towards the end because I thought it was more appropriate that I spoke with you guys instead of being up front. Felt more comfortable to me. Without further ado, I'd like to really kind of give a spoiler alert for our next agenda. As you notice, we're going to be delving into some very detailed conversations about our funding streams and how those play out. We're going to be receiving a very in-depth conversation or presentation on those different funding streams. I did want to say goodbye to Chuck Steigerwald. Miss you dearly, man. I loved seeing you in PRTC and coming down here. And I wanted to welcome again Ms. Chandler. Without further ado, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. Our next meeting will be September 21st, 2020. If you have any agenda items, you don't have to wait till the end. You can send them now. They'll give us plenty of time to get them prepared and add them into the next meeting. And thank you very much. Have a good evening.
That'll be the motion to adjourn.